Joining us live on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, longtime NBA writer, SiriusXM NBA radio host, Mitch Lawrence, says the playoffs are now in the Eastern Conference anyway, into round number 2. We got some great Western Conference stuff. We'll get into that as well as Mitch joins me now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. My old friend Mitch Lawrence is back. What's going on, Mitch?
Well, Mike, I'm doing okay. What's the latest on Joel Embiid? That's what everybody wants to know, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying day to day, but this is the Sixers. Joel Embiid's been day to day since they drafted him.
Yeah, no kidding. And he's had a litany of injuries and all kinds of problems staying on court. And I think I've probably told you in the past, my biggest problem with looking at the Sixers with Joel Embiid as the number one guy is if he's going to be unreliable for you, you can't build a championship team around it. And that's just unfortunate because obviously, it's an injury situation. And we've seen him miss playoff games in the past. He missed a couple against Miami, I think, in his first go-round. Missed one against Brooklyn. If they don't have him for the Atlanta Hawks series, and, the Hawks aren't world beaters. They just beat an inferior Knicks team and pretty much pulverized them pretty easily. But the Hawks are an up-and-coming team. But if you don't have Joel Embiid, I have a hard time picking the Sixers in this series because – there's just a fall off. You have Joel Embiid on the court. He gives you MVP-type play. They'll beat the Hawks. He's not on the court. I just don't know how many games they're going to win in this series.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit here because you saw a lot of that Knicks series, I'm sure, and what the Hawks do so well. The Sixers-Wizards series, they just – the Knicks just don't – the Wizards don't have any depth. Beal scores. Russell does what he does, but they don't have a third, fourth. They got nothing after those two guys. Hawks have some depth, and that showed in this series.
Well, at least the Sixers played against guys like Beal and Westbrook. The Hawks took on a Knicks team. The star happens to be the coach, Julius Randle was nowhere. He's the most improved player in the regular season. In the playoffs, he had an awful series. He shot like 30%. He had 28 baskets. He had 23 turnovers. He was never a factor. And their defense, the Hawks, give Nate McMillan all kinds of credit because they're a much better defensive team than they were under Lloyd Pierce. They just didn't have a lot to have to shut down. Now, when they're playing the Sixers now, you have to wonder where the Sixers are going to get their scoring if they don't have Embiid. It's going to be Tobias Harris and Seth Curry. And, we'll see what Nate McMillan comes up with them. But, the interesting thing about the Hawks is this is a team that's never been in the playoffs before with guys like Trae Young, DeAndre Hunter, who's very good. You've seen Clint Capella play for the Rockets, so they do have some experience. But, it all goes back to, does Philly have Embiid? Is he on the court, and is he compromised? What level does he play at, or is he sitting out? That's the whole, nobody knows. If it's just a regular Joel Embiid's playing and he's healthy, I'd pick the Sixers. But I'm not going to pick the Sixers here because I just don't know, what level he's going to play at if he plays.
Yeah, I said, Mitch, before he came on throughout the day, this Atlanta team's a lot better than I think a lot of people in the audience who don't watch them all the time, don't see them a lot, but they are, they've got a legit star. When you could go into Madison Square Garden and play the way he did and embrace that, he's not going to be overwhelmed by the moment of playing at a full house in Philly, that's for sure.
No, he did a great job. I think he's the first guy to have 30 points in the Garden in 3 games since Michael Jordan. Of course, the rules are different, and defenses, it's harder to play defense, easier to play offense. But even still, this is his first time in the playoffs for Trae Young. And, the thing that follows him around in the Hawks is the fact that, they made the big swap on draft day, Trae Young going from Dallas to Atlanta, and then Atlanta giving up Luka Doncic. And I sent out a tweet, which is kind of tongue-in-cheek last night, saying I know the Hawk fans are already loving this, that Trae Young got his team out of the first round before Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic still, right now, if you watch the two play, he's more of an MVP caliber player than Trae Young. But Trae Young, look at game 1. He sends the Knicks into an 0-1 hole right away with that last-second shot, which, you're going up against a Tom Thibodeau defense. You're on the road at Madison Square Garden. You win the game that way. There's not many ways you can start a playoff career off better than he did. And the rest of the series, their big thing was talent level. They had so much more talent than the Knicks, and that's what came to the forefront all the time. The Knicks just don't have people who can make shots. They're a bad passing team. You saw that. Their offense was dreadful. Philadelphia is going to present more challenges for them, But still, I'd argue, who's the scorer that you're really scared of on Philadelphia if Joel Embiid's not playing? Are you scared? You're not scared of Ben Simmons, obviously. You can't make fake free throws. You're not really scared of Tobias Harris. You're not scared of Seth Curry. That's the thing that Atlanta's going to have in their favor if Joel Embiid's not playing.
Yeah, that's, you're right about, the night that Embiid went down, Harris kind of reverted back to the Harris we've seen in the past, and we know Simmons, he doesn't want to score. He wants to help everybody else score. Now, last night, he played center last night for the Mo. I mean, he was like magic, going to play center. He scores 19, but he still doesn't want to do it in the conventional way, and you wonder, can you play Ben Simmons against Clint Capella and what that means with Trae Young? I guess that's going to be an interesting thing. If Embiid can't play, does Simmons go back and play center like he did last night?
Well, I don't know. That's something that Doc Rivers is going to have to figure out. You play Dwight Howard more. Capella really, Trae Young was just, phenomenal against the Knicks. But Clint Capella, who had a lot to say, as you saw on the eve of that last game, where he basically said, we're coming up to New York to send that team, send the Knicks home. It's going to be the start of summer. You never hear a player say that unless they really know that they have this thing completely locked up and they're a much better team and they have no doubt in their minds. They played with a ton of confidence. They're going to enter with a ton of confidence in this next series. And, a wounded Embiid or a team without Embiid, they're not going to be worried at all. They're going to come in and they're going to think that they can win that series. And, we'll see. So, the matchups are going to be interesting. I have no idea what Doc Rivers is going to do. It's just unfortunate that in these playoffs we've seen the injury bug. And, I thought we would. I thought it would be a continuation of the regular season, Mike, which was a total, for the league, it's just been ravaged all year long. You've seen in the Lakers series, if they go down, a lot of it's going to be because Anthony Davis couldn't answer the bell in the last game. We'll see if he's limited tonight. We've seen Embiid get hurt. It's just a continuing problem for the NBA, and it probably has to do with quick turnaround off of last season, condensed schedule, guys getting hurt, we're at the start of June. This thing's going to mid to late July. There's a lot of basketball left. You're going to see more injuries probably.
Yeah, I want to ask you about this, Mitch, because obviously we're talking with Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio. Somebody tweeted at me last night, how did the Knicks get the 4 seed? Was it that bad, the East that bad? And I said, well, the Knicks try hard every night. They didn't sit guys out. The regular season's in trouble, man.
Well, here's what Tom Thibodeau does. And you know what? I think for Knicks fans, this is what they have to remember. When you hire Tom Thibodeau's coach, he wants to win every game. Every game's like a Game 7. There aren't guys on load management. The Knicks also lucked out. They didn't have a COVID deal like the Celtics did. You had some teams that were wiped out by COVID. They didn't have that. They lucked out getting Derrick Rose, who played at a great high level in the regular season, and all of their guys basically played above their usual stats, played above their heads. And so in the playoffs, though, what happens is it usually comes back to what? It comes back to talent. It comes back to talent. It comes back to what have guys done in the playoffs before. And, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, first-timers in the playoffs, they struggled. They weren't ready to meet the challenge. They found a defense that prevented, Julius Randle almost had 2.5 guys on him all the time, and he had a very hard time. And now Knicks fans are looking at the prospect of, well, yeah, I guess Julius, for diehard Knicks fans who really don't know, they think that Julius Randle was the greatest thing they've ever seen in the regular season. Now they're worried about, I guess he's like your third option on a championship team. Yeah. He's not a 1 or a 2 option. We all knew that. And the regular season is much different. And that's the thing. I think Tom's basic thing was, we've had too much success too soon. It's probably going to catch up with him. And that's what happened in that series because Atlanta was just a better. They had more shooters. They had more talent. They had their big guys were active. John Collins had some impact. We talked about Capella, Trae Young. Look, Philly's going to present for Atlanta. Philly will present more talent. There is no doubt. Now, the difference is, or the big thing is, and I have to keep harping on it, if you trot out an MVP talent like Joel Embiid, well, Atlanta can't match that. But if he's not there, all of a sudden the playing field is very much leveled, and it becomes now, can Philly score enough? Will they have enough punch against a good Atlanta defense?
The Knicks, real quick, you said, people feel they're the 4 seed, they won a game, they're moving in the right direction. How do they get better? They haven't got a free agent to sign there since Amari signed there. What was that, 20 years ago? So to say they're going to get 2 free agents to sign there, or draft a guy. I mean, they seem like a classic team that's going to be stuck right in this middle.
You raise a very good point. When the Nets, and this is the number one example because of who they got. When the Nets, did well under Kenny Atkinson a couple of years ago, they had the ability, because they changed things around and they got their team to a point where Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving wanted to go and play there. The Knicks have a different situation. Although people say it's a more attractive place to play, you have to ask yourself, first of all, the guys want to play for Tom, who treats the regular season one way. And the other thing is there aren't the Kevin Durants and Kyrie Irving on the free agent market. You've got Kawhi Leonard. Everybody thinks he's going back to the Clippers, even if they lose again. You don't have nearly the talent because a lot of guys signed in the offseason who might have become free agents. So that's a problem for the Knicks timing-wise. I'll tell you what else is a problem for them. And this goes back to being unlucky in the lottery a couple of years ago. They had the worst record. They were in line to get Zion Williamson. Not only didn't they get him, they didn't get the number 2 pick, Ja Morant. If they had gotten Ja Morant, they'd be on a different trajectory because they wouldn't be worrying now about, well, we got to get a point guard because Derrick Rose is old and Emmanuel Quickley's in number 3. He's like a backup type player. They got R.J. Barrett, who looks like, he made some progress. He took some strides, but you're not building around him. That's where coming up short in the lottery, like losing in the lottery, can set your team back as it did the Knicks. So I think you raised some good points. I think that people here in the New York area know this is going to be a much tougher deal than what the Nets did, adding those 2 guys and then eventually trading for James Harden, because you just don't have guys. I mean, look, is Damian Lillard going to ask out of Portland and all of a sudden want to play for the Knicks? I mean, that would be like a dream come true.
Yeah, they need something like that to happen.
No, and here's the thing about Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard doesn't believe in playing in the regular season. He's like the poster child for load management. So now he's going to want to come to New York to play for Tom Thibodeau, who wants you to play every game and practice all the time. That's not going to happen. So who's left? DeMar DeRozan? You can't build around DeMar DeRozan. They tried in Toronto with Kyle Lowry. That didn't work. So the Knicks have a long way to go to get, they need elite talent now.
Yeah.
Even if they want to extend Julius Randle, who it looks like he might be a third guy on a championship team, you still need to save enough money to attract these other stars. Bradley Beal going to want to play in New York? I don't see that necessarily happening. So the Knicks are kind of right now, it still looks like the best asset they have going forward is Tom Thibodeau, but they need more talent. How are you going to get the talent? That's the big question for Leon Rose.
Yep, and their biggest selling point has been the Garden, and that hasn't sold for them in 20 years, so they got to come up with another way to do it, I guess. All right, L.A. tonight, Phoenix, L.A., 3-2. What happens?
Well, look, if Anthony Davis plays, he's going to be diminished. He's going to be compromised because he's going to be playing on some sort of a groin injury, and he's had a knee problem. It's got to be LeBron James putting on another show. The question is this a father time type of situation for LeBron where finally, after 18 years, playing more minutes in playoffs, playing more games in the playoffs than anybody else, is it all going to start catching up to him tonight in tonight in L.A.? I don't know the answer to that. He didn't really impose his will in Game 5. He got no help. Dennis Schroeder was a joke. They didn't have Anthony Davis. He's going to need a lot more help tonight. The home court doesn't, to me, provide that much. I mean, look, if Phoenix is better, Phoenix is the better team, and they should win tonight. And Chris Paul, though, we have to see if he's now how serious is the re-injury has been, or is he okay? I mean, I just don't know. A part of me says you can't bet against LeBron, but there's a part of me that also says time runs its course. Father Time eventually beats everybody, and we might be at this juncture. He's never lost a first-round series. We know that, but he's in his 18th year, and he's still expected to be the lead guy on that team. I would not be very confident if I were Frank Vogel and these other guys. If you could force a Game 7, that would be probably more than you could even expect at this point, because you just don't know about Anthony Davis. Look, we knew going into the playoffs, Mike, it was all about if LeBron and Anthony Davis are going to be healthy, the Lakers are going to be tough to beat. LeBron, he has looked limited, but he's still played. He's not putting up great stats. And Anthony Davis has missed a game, and he has been limited. And they don't have a great support. They don't have as good a supporting cast as they had last year in the bubble. So they're ripe for the taking. And I'm telling you what, the Utahs of the world, I know this is an obvious thing to say, but the Utahs of the world and the teams like Denver and everybody else in the West, they're all rooting tonight for the Suns because that's going to crack that thing wide open out in the Western Conference.
Sure will. And then Saturday, Milwaukee and the Nets. They got that one, the Eastern Conference. It's going to be a great playoff season. We hope as round 2 kicks off this weekend, and you can listen to all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. He's Mitch Lawrence from SiriusXM NBA Radio, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, Mitch, we'll catch up soon, pal.
Mike, enjoyed it. I hope Embiid can get out there and play.
Oh, we all do, man. Oh, my gosh. It's hopefully he's back soon.